Hey everybody, it's Seano McFarland. Welcome to the Seano Show. We have a very special guest today. Myself and my buddy Ben is going to be asking the question today, my manager and good pal. And the reason why I'm going to be doing this is because nobody knows who I am. So you're going to learn a little bit about my backstory, how this podcast came to fruition, and hopefully some techniques and tools that you'll listen in and pass it on, and hopefully helpful to everybody. So I hope you enjoy listening to the Seano Show, me being interviewed today.
What are you doing here? What are you doing at Shell? Why do people come and work with you?
Lives are changed here. Lives are fucking changed here. You know my famous saying, shame on them for treating me that way, and shame on me for staying that way. And I made a very conscious effort that if I wasn't to live out loud and change my life, they won. And that was unacceptable.
Seano, thank you for having me. Today's your day. We're going to find out more about you, but you are the host of this show. So it's a little weird sitting in your chair, but thank you for giving it up for the day.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the show wouldn't happen without you. So thank you, brother.
Oh, you're a legend. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure managing you. And I really think you're doing a lot of good in this world. And this is exactly what the people need. So I'm just honored to be a part of helping you bring it to life. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. So Seano, just taking a step back, let's keep it just top line to kind of kick things off. What are you doing here? What are you doing at Shell? Why do people come and work with you?
Shell is based in Venice, California. It's a hub. It's a community center. It's a place for people to be safe when unsafe. There's a residential living here. I do therapy and coaching here. I host meetings. People come here to breathe, to eliminate shame, to shift the narrative, to find a community, to find something higher in their life. Because I treat addiction here at Shell as a spiritual malady. And lives are changed here. Lives are fucking changed here.
Very true. I've seen it. Where are these individuals at before they end up here? What points in their life, and what are the type of individuals that are coming through your doors and that you're working with?
It could be somebody who's just coming out of prison. It could be somebody that just got, in some Me Too stuff, major shenanigans. It could be somebody who's been on a meth run forever. It could be somebody who's addicted to pornography and escorts. It could be somebody who's got really strong sex and love addiction. It could be a high-end call girl. It could be a girl that's working the streets here. It could be a compulsive gambler. It could be somebody who's maybe a half a day within calling their life.
For many people, they're familiar with the normal entry points for addiction, but you just touched on a lot of different ones that might not be so obvious to the masses. I think it's kind of interesting if you can expand upon that. You mentioned slaw. You mentioned some different acting out things, gambling. What are, for the average person, they're aware of drugs and alcohol. What are we talking about here, that people are navigating really?
We deal with chemical addiction here. And of course, Alcoholics Anonymous is such a great resource for people. And then a lot of what we do in the trauma work and the sex and love addiction work is we're very SLAW focused. And SLAW is a 12-step program based on Alcoholics Anonymous. And what that program deals with is helping people in their codependency and their reliance on other people's behavior for their happiness and safety, and identifying what is a red flag, magical thinking. And it's a very, very serious addiction. I heard it here a couple days ago. A great definition is checking your pulse on somebody else's wrist. I can't be happy until we're cool.
Yeah.
And it's a real prison sentence. And a lot of people with long-term sobriety, they don't tackle that particular issue. They relapse over these issues.
What's that look like at a worst case scenario? Because it sounds bad, but it doesn't maybe sound detrimental to one. How does that play out?
What do you mean it doesn't sound bad?
It is bad, but comparatively to like drugs or alcohol, what are we talking about? How is this crippling for some people,
Well, it's crippling because they can't be free. It's crippling because they might lose their marriage over it.
Yeah.
It's crippling because I'm just telling you, I've worked with some of the biggest, baddest, waiting for a text from somebody that you're okay or we're cool, we're gonna meet up later. is a very, very serious affliction. Trauma-based relationships, based on dopamine highs, is just as powerful as crack addiction, meth addiction. It's a real thing, and people take their lives over it. People never understand true intimacy and love, and it's a real motherfucker, man. And it takes a lot of good people down, male and female, of course.
How did you get here? Where did this all start?
Well, where did the journey begin? No, well, first off, I'm a stone cold hustler, junkie, sex addict, Hall of Famer, fucking wackadoodle, grifter, Irish hooligan, that somehow found his way to a different path. I came to Los Angeles in 1990 to be an actor like so many people. And within a short period of time, I got a big commercial and worked my way in there, and I did a hit play with Dylan McDermott called Short Eyes, with a prison drama with Don Cheadle, and that kind of put me on the map. And I was blessed to work with, had great mentors all my life. And one of my great mentors was Jeff Goldblum. And I did 3 movies. I was just stand-in driver. And what I learned, he was the most prepared guy on the set. I learned the business of movie making and professionalism. And he really went to bat for me, and he got me an audition for the follow-up to Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and I nailed a small little part. And then I wanted to push it a little bit further. My other great heroes and mentors was David Mamet, the Pulitzer Prize winning playwright, probably most famous for writing Glengarry Glen Ross. I got accepted to Atlantic Theater summer program in Burlington, Vermont. So I went out there and studied with them. And in that, I was going down to Lake Champlain to thank God for this amazing experience, come back and do this movie. I was 10 years sober, and I got ran over by a car on my bicycle. And I was paralyzed for 3 days. And they had to do an emergency surgery. And now I'm in a halo, which is still gritters going through my head, and I couldn't do the movie. And I was probably 87% mostly grateful, so that I could still walk, but it was kind of tough back in my little studio apartment watching Entertainment Tonight do the live feeds from the movie set. Whew, fuck. And I didn't take any pain pills. Not because I'm such a tough guy, I just didn't like the way it made me feel, and I just wanted to be clean. And I take my sobriety really fucking serious, and I'm terrified to go back out. And about 8 months in, a buddy of mine was doing a movie down the street here at Sony, and a basketball player was in his film that was at the time getting in a lot of trouble. And he asked me if I would just come do a 12-step. And 12-step in recovery terms is where you help somebody and carry the message. And I was kind of interested about this guy. I had nothing else to do, and I wasn't supposed to drive. And I drove over there, and in about 15 minutes in, being in his trailer, I said, "Hey, man, I don't want to be rude or presumptuous." I said, "Did somebody rape you?" Right? And he broke down crying, and him and I became best friends. And the NBA hired me to be with him, and I went to UCLA and graduated top of my class. And that's how this started.
That's amazing. I think it takes a special somebody to be able to recognize that in somebody else. Mm-hmm. Surely real recognizes real, sometimes for better or worse. I imagine you've had your own, introductions to this at an early age. What's that look like for you? What were kind of those formative years, whether good or bad, for you that kind of led you down this path of drugs and alcohol, then sobriety? Because we just kind of jumped into 10 years in, more or less, but surely there was some path that got you there to sobriety in the first place, I imagine.
Yeah, I think the reason I can help so many people is because I've been there. Mm-hmm. And, the thing that, is probably most important, the thing that really kind of shifted my life for 1,000 different reasons is when I grew up in Arizona. My father is kind of an Irish gigolo, alcoholic, drifter. He's a lot like the Willie Loman, the character in Death of a Salesman. Always a dream. Oh, they love me, and it's gonna hit. Some days we had money, and some days we didn't. And he always fell in love with the other woman, was my mom. And I love my father, and I'm not here, but it's just that's kind of where we went. And he made a decision, and I have a younger brother and sister, to leave that marriage at a young age. And because he was on his own path, he didn't pay child support or alimony or any of those things. And so we had to basically move into government housing. It was food stamps and powdered milk. And about 6 months into that, living at the VVS apartment complex at 3500 North 75th Street. I was kidnapped and used for child pornography, and I was tortured, and they put a gun to my head, and they threatened to kill my brother and my sister if I ever told anybody that. And I kept that, and they were very good at what they did. I was terrified of that, and I kept that secret until I was about 27, and that completely shifted my life. And because this is really important for listeners to understand this, especially people that have suffered sexual abuse. Even though the threat of being killed was terrifying as a young boy, they were also doing things in my body that made me feel good. And so what happened is they let a switch in me that my arousal template became super hypersexual, you know, and there's no coming down from that, you know. And so, you know, shortly after that happened, I woke up drugged in a bowling alley. And because I was gone for a couple days, and I just sold it as I ran away because I was troubled at that time by my father's leaving and things like that. And I started selling my body on the streets, you know, mostly men, sometimes women. And Arizona, at the time, ironically, had the highest child abduction rate in the country. It was also a very dark, seedy place. And I was able to find myself into some really dark situations. And I also became extraordinarily violent at that time too, because I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to tell people I'm scared. I was just fucking, you know, paralyzed.
Rightfully so. That would do that to
Yeah.
anybody. But I think a lot of people get to that place and never really get out of it, frankly, or it owns their life for the remainder of it. It's amazing how you've turned it around and harnessed this terrible thing and, you know, made it the opposite of that, made it something that you could use to leverage to help people and learn from and create change. And I think that really brings us to an amazing point, which is like, you know, tell me more about the average individual that's coming through your doors that you're working with. What's this person like? And I know it ranges, but really kind of brings us to the impact you're making, you know, and this thing that could have broken you, but you've turned around in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, so let me answer. I'm going to make a statement, then I'll answer your question.
Please.
Why does Shell exist? Why was I able to see something in that ball player that maybe a lot of people couldn't see?
Yeah.
And why can I have the impact of in the way I do around the world? And it's such an incredible, and I say that really humbly. I truly do. I just took all that bad stuff, okay, and made good out of it. Okay. And you know my famous saying, shame on them for treating me that way, and shame on me for staying that way. And I made a very conscious effort that if I wasn't to live out loud and change my life, they won. And that was unacceptable. And so I just took all those experiences and I made good out of it. For instance, I just would like to talk about this.
Please.
I'm blessed to work in Rwanda with genocide survivors and Uganda with children soldiers. I don't speak the language, but I speak the language. You feel me?
Yeah, I do.
So when I'm talking to these kids, by the way, somebody's already had it worse. I just been kidnapped for 2 days. How about being fucking kidnapped for 4 years?
Yeah.
So when we're talking, they know that I'm listening in a very specific way. Trauma survivor to trauma survivor, addict to addict. There's nothing more powerful than that. So the person walking in the shell, they might be struggling with alcohol. They might be struggling with porno addiction. They might be, you know, lost in life, horrible codependency. You know, there's all different walks that come in here.
What's the importance in creating a men's only room? I've noticed you guys do that a lot at Shell. Why?
The reason why I hold groups here, okay, with men only is because, honestly, some of them don't have the maturity to be around women. They're too distracted and they'll get high in the room.
Yeah.
And I can't, and when I'm dealing with these very sensitive matters, I can't have any distractions. I have to create the perfect environment for the healing to begin. Does that make sense?
Completely. Yeah.
What I'm doing, one of the most therapists have the listening skills of a garage mechanic. Okay. What I've, and tried to, with my darndest, I call it active listening. As I'm doing with you right now, I'm really listening. Okay. And people don't feel judged. Okay. And I create a safe place for them to say, you know what, Seano? I've never told anybody this before. And we can laugh about things too. And like, for instance, an example might be like, well, fuck, I see transsexuals. I said, oh, fuck, me too, right? I said, you know what? I said, and they're like, what, really? Yeah. I said, I'm going to tell you a story, right? Like I was with this gal and she went by the name of Chanel, okay? And we had a fee dispute, okay? And, I left the hotel there on Santa Monica Boulevard and Chanel became Charlie. And Charlie in heels running down, I want my fucking money. And that brings laughter and then we're cool. So whatever it takes. And then I also will say, hey, you know what, man? Or gal, are you fucking sick of this sad ass fucking story? Cause you're boring me. And that's an art too. That's an art when it's not just all peace and blessings here, brother. We're all good. And let's just meditate this shit out. It's like, I'm hearing the same shit. Do you want to fucking change, man?
That friendly push.
Yeah. And that's the trick. That's the art.
That's amazing. What about showing up, consistency?
I have a couple sayings, and this is really true. I'm the biggest scaredy cat in the room, okay? But I'm a triple black belt in showing up. And the one thing I've learned from my great teachers is action, action, action. Just show the fuck up, no matter what. Get in the ocean, work out, put the application in. You got to fucking do it. You just have to do that. And one day at a time, I've tried to master that. But I really push people because, addicts have all kinds of interesting ideas. And the first one is, it's not that bad. 2 is, I'll do it tomorrow. And there is no tomorrow. There's no tomorrow in recovery. You might die, motherfucker. So you better fucking figure it out.
What's the ultimate goal for some of the people coming through your doors? What's the better life look like for them?
Well, there's obviously the better life is just to be sober, whatever that may be. Sober off the gambling, sober off, drugs, women, codependency, but there's that part. The best part is to watch them truly shift the narrative and start taking risk in life. It might be, how do you court a girl for the real time? It might be leaving your marriage after 23 years. It might be starting a company. It might be going on a press conference and humbly saying, I fucked up. What I did was wrong and no excuses. And I'm going to play this show and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to get back on this team and let my actions speak for me. And it's the thing that I really try to teach people. Can you actually look in the mirror and say 10 times, I love you? Shell is about self-love. It's about being right with yourself. No matter what happens out in the world, you're cool. Because you have to figure that out. Because if you can't get that way, you're going to drink and drug and get high again.
I know a lot of what you're doing here is to create change. Where does that change begin?
Great question. Change begins the moment you ask for help. Change happens when maybe the first time you raise your hand and say, I'm Seano, I'm an alcoholic. I'm Seano, I'm a sex addict. Okay? And change happens when you don't get high for one day. When you're scared to ask the guy across the room, can I get your number? When you go for the fellows and have a smoothie after the meeting and just start making a community with yourself, it starts there. Change happens when you get on your knees and ask for something higher to come in your life and change your thinking.
How do you navigate life after identifying as a sex addict?
A random question. Well, let me do a little education first. People think sex addict is somebody who just wants to have sex all the time. They're hyper sex. That's not the case. Sex addict might be somebody who is addicted to pornography. It's not just having sex all the time, or a sex addict might be somebody that lives in fantasy all the time. Okay? what I'm trying to teach people is to understand what they want exactly and why they're doing certain things. Okay. And I teach them sex addiction is an intimacy disorder. Okay. And they're just running away. So what I'm trying to help them do, it's not about having sex all the time, although there are certainly people that do that and want to have sex all the time and sex maniac, whatever you call it. That's not really sex addiction. Okay. I'm helping them have a right relationship with sex and intimacy and learning how to be with their partner and whatever that may be.
Is there a differentiation? I know SLAW is sex and love. Is there a differentiation between a sex addict and a love addict?
Yeah. So for instance, I think it really needs, sex addiction is, you do it right. You can get it right now. You want to get on the porno, do your thing, see the prostitute, what do you want to do? Meet the girl, you got a bunch of girlfriends, boom, boom, immediate hit. Love addiction, I think, is harder and more difficult and scary because love addiction, for the most part, waiting for the other person to respond. Well, guess what? They might not respond day 1, day 2, day 3. Okay? And that's a whole different game. Sex addiction, more of an instant hit. Love addiction is more about being in the daze, the fantasy, the spell, the bubble of waiting for the other partner to come around and tell you everything's cool.
Something that really impresses me about you, Seano, is your son. And frankly, your past story, yet your son Dylan is such an amazing example of just a well-raised kid. What's that look like and how did that come about? Because I don't think you were dealt the best deck of cards to have such a beautiful success story. How'd you get there?
So my son is 20 years old. When I was 20, I was in prison. Okay. I always say that's one of my favorite things. But it is one of my favorite things is intergenerational trauma. I love putting families back together. And I think a very uncommon thing in parenting, because people always, what does it take to parent? What do you do? Just fucking know what your kids are doing. Be on top of it. Just, if they're hiding in the bathroom with their computer, something might be going on.
It's true.
I'll tell you this. The other thing is this. From the moment he was born and I held his little hand at 3 hours, I said, Dylan McFarland, whatever you want to do in the world, you can do. Okay? And the other thing is I'm his mother. We just loved him so much. And we gave him room to fall down. But we curated great things for him. Traveling around the world, meeting people that I've been blessed to work with. And he's got good genes. His mother's 1,000 times much smarter than I am. But he's got my street smarts and my work ethic.
It's a hell of a combination.
It's a hell of a combination. He's got great hair too.
Yes, he does.
And he's kind and humble still.
He is. And he's finding a lot of success on his own as a young entrepreneur, which I think is a testament to the amazing upbringing and with no hand-holding at that, which from my perspective is just jaw-dropping and really cool. Hats off to you, Seano.
Thank you.
It's a testament to what you're doing.
As a parent, I never worry about my son. And my phone rings off the fucking hook with parents that are worried about their kids.
Why this podcast? Why create this? Why bring this to life?
Well, I've had great success in the work I do here at Shell. In some ways, some of that success and some of the people that I've worked with over the years, I don't broadcast kind of you kind of got to find me a little bit. And I think that's served me well. And then he speaks of this, so I'm not talking out of school. He's written about it and talked about it. I'm most probably famous for treating Mike Tyson. We have a 15-year relationship. He's lived here for periods of like a year at a time. We have a great partnership and trust and friendship. And he has a podcast called Hot Boxing. He kept bothering me to get on it. And I said, Mike, I really don't want to do that. I think part of it was I was maybe a little scared. And part of it was I just kind of like the way things going. And then finally his wife, Kiki, who is also someone I love dearly, said, Seano, just go on this fucking show for me, please. I said, okay, Kiki. And so I went on the show, and what I was not prepared for is the millions of people it reached. And that was very powerful for me. I didn't really have the maturity or the understanding of how that kind of works, that world really. And then I was blessed to meet my boss, our boss, I gave a keynote address in Miami, Bob Pittman, and he said, I'm a great storyteller and I appreciate that. And he said, we should do a show. And then one thing led to another, and here we are.
Personal curiosity, working with Mike, baddest man on the planet. Imagine that could be scary at times. Was it ever not? Did you ever feel nervous working?
Like it was going to kill me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. A couple times.
You're telling him what he can and can't do to somebody that's never told what to do.
Yeah, no, he doesn't like that sometimes.
What was that like? I'm fascinated.
Probably the most famous photo, well, one of them of Mike is when he's fighting Spinks in the ring. And the shot is up in the rafters and he's looking at him and you see the look in Spink's face. He goes, I'm fucked. And I've had Mike look at me on this couch in this chair. And I said, what are you gonna do, Mike? You gonna fucking kill me right now? Or are you gonna look within inside yourself and not run away for the first time in your life? And he's actually even getting more, and he's screamed and yelled at me, but he knew I was right. He had such a trust and respect for me, as he has this, he's probably, Customato was his great teacher and leader. And, he would yell at me, but he'd never do harm to me.
It's amazing.
But I've stared down the beast a couple of times, and
You've gotten the stare down from him as well.
Yeah.
The infamous.
Yeah. One quick side story, when I first met Mike, he was getting ready to go back to prison in Arizona. He did a lot of cocaine and ran into a police car. They don't like that out there.
Funny enough, where you've had your run-ins as well.
And it was a lot. He was broke. He was overweight, and it's when I travel with people, I stay with them, and I also was trying to keep costs down for him. And so we went to Arizona.
What do you mean stay with them?
I stay in the room with him.
Oh, literally, amazing.
Yeah. Because, you think they're just, they're going to leave. Something's going to happen. These guys are slippery, And so we're going to the room at the Valley Ho in Scottsdale and I said, okay. He goes, all right, Seano, I'll see you later. I said, no, I'm staying with you. He says, no, you're not. I said, no, Mike, I'm going to stay with you. And he goes, no fucking white motherfucker's going to stay with me. I said, Michael, I'm going to stay with you. What's going to happen is you're going to have a girl over here. You're going to get in trouble. And it's all the work we've done. And then he got hot. And I said, I don't know. We gotta make this happen. And he looked at me and goes, fuck you, motherfucker. Okay. And then he just took all his clothes off. And it's like, oh shit. Okay. That's Mike Tyson naked. And well done, Michael. And we never looked back.
That's amazing. What's the average prototype of the client coming through here that you're working with?
It is everything from movie stars to tech billionaires to gang people to guys that are, managing restaurants. I kind of see a lot of, I mostly probably at this time and age where I'm at, just see a lot of basically high functioning people that have complete inability to be honest with themselves. And life just dealt them a serious, I'm kind of the last stop for a lot of people. But I work with kids and I work with families, and help the families heal together, and do that.
What's that look like? How so? How are you incorporating the families and when? That's fascinating to me. And I imagine pretty delicate process.
At one time I was treating half of Malibu, and these kids, they have so much entitlement and they have so much money and they have so much, and, the drugs, are unbelievably dangerous right now. All it takes is one fentanyl and you're done. You're out. There's no coming back. The marijuana is unbelievably potent. So they got these kids that are struggling, getting in school, getting in fights, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, getting arrested. And I come in and I try to adjust the family system and I try to teach boundaries. And I say things to parents like, maybe it's a good idea not to give your kid $1,000 a week. Hard to do. hard to do.
Yeah.
And then I get the kids clean, and then I have to help the family, because sometimes the worst part is the parents.
Been enabling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a heavy one, but that's amazing, the impact that you're having for these families. I think a lot of
I
people
love working with families.
just can't get that back. It's
beautiful.
It's awesome work that you're doing. What's Seano's balanced life look like? What's the guy that's helping everybody else doing when you're not helping everybody else, frankly? What are you doing for yourself? How are you keeping it all going?
Well, as you know, I love my ocean swims. That's my church.
Yeah.
That's where the world is quiet. You know, when my son's not busy traveling around the world, you know, changing the world of commerce, I love spending time with him. Yeah. I take really good care of myself.
Yeah.
You know, my exercise routine, I love saunas, I do massage, I love the arts, I love seeing plays, I love doing things, I love riding my bike. That's all I need, really. And then every once in a while, I'll just go somewhere and disappear for a little bit.
It's amazing. Where are you escaping to when you escape?
Where do I go?
Yeah. What are the prereqs?
I like the desert.
Yeah.
I like Santa Fe. I like San Francisco. And, you know, I like walking the streets of Paris. Nobody knows me. I can't speak French. Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, I think something that's fascinating to me is the ocean swims that you do. Not just for yourself, for others, and just relation with nature in general and its importance. Can you touch on that?
Sure. So, like I open with, I believe addiction is a spiritual malady. I like to use the word God. I'm not tied to God. A lot of people's models of recovery is, you got to fucking go to AA. You got to go to Narcotics Anonymous. That's not for everybody. And if that's the only tool in my toolkit, I don't have much to give. So sometimes I might take somebody to the Museum of Modern Art before I take them to a meeting. Or I'll take them in the ocean. Because the ocean, a lot of people are scared of the water. And I work with, you ask the type of clients. I work with world-class athletes, but I work with people that, are really quite big physically, and they haven't taken their shirt off in 12 years. And so to walk them down to the beach and watch them take their shirt off for the first time and go in, oh yeah, they find their higher power. Let me tell you, man. Okay? Because out there, it's really interesting. And some people don't know how to swim so good. And I'm building trust with them. And what we do is a little exercise and I'm teaching them meditation. We go there and we bury our feet deep in the sand before we go in. And I say, tap into the current, tap into the ocean, tap into the fish. We're in their home right now. Just kind of walk in that, right? And we get out there, and hopefully if they can get out a little bit, and I go, just scream, let all that grief, let all that shame, let all that pain, just let it out. And it's been pretty healing. I've been doing that for 20 plus years, and I get, calls and pictures from clients all around the world that they're doing it with their children. Now that really makes me feel good.
Oh, that's amazing, Seano.
Yeah, it's good.
That's really, really special.
It's powerful.
Thank you for sharing that. Love, it's such a big through line in your work, your life. What's that look like? What's your advice to people with love?
Love is the answer. Listen, why do we shoot up dope? Why do we go back to prison? Why are we in shitty relationships? Why are we in debt? Why are we fucking resentful all the time? We don't like ourselves. We're not right with ourselves. And I have found for myself, and this is not something that happened overnight, it was painstaking, and it's still one day at a time for me. I gotta get hip with Seano. I gotta make peace with who I am, and I gotta let some real light and love come in. Because the most important thing is I'm right with myself and I love myself. And what I try to teach people, I've got a couple things there that my whole heart. One is nobody can blow my light out unless I give them permission. Number two, the world does not need to change. I do. 3, the only person I suffer from is Seano McFarland. That's what recovery taught me. So my happiness is not based on whether or not you get sober, whether or not you like me, whether you want to go on a date. That's not it. My happiness is based on my ability to show up for myself one day at a time. And no matter what happens in the world, I'm right with myself. I'm not basing my serenity based on outside events. If this podcast does great, fucking awesome. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna lose sleep. I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this thing work. It's out of my hands. I just show the fuck up. But if I'm not right with myself, I don't love myself, what else is there? Let me give 1 second, please. Let me add to that. This is something that I grew up in Arizona. I grew up watching movies and reading Interview magazine. I thought everybody had it going on. Then I started treating some of these people. I'm like, oh shit, this is not how it really works. And I've been blessed to work with some of the wealthiest people in the world. And a lot of them want to be me. And I say that kindly because they don't know how to go to a taco truck and have a fucking blast. They don't know how to be free. They don't know how to be right. Money doesn't solve it. Success doesn't have it. If it did, I'd be out of business. You feel me?
100%.
Okay.
That's amazing. I think for a lot of people listening and just tuning in here, and this world is new to them. I know with AA, one of the first steps is admitting you have a problem. What's recognizing that you might have a problem in this lane for somebody look like? What's that self-identifying look like? And then what's the first step for somebody like that might be listening to this podcast, realizing this hits home? What next?
Great. So I always try to keep it simple. Let's just say our listeners out there are struggling with alcoholism. Am I an alcoholic? Am I a sexual love addict? Just Google 20 questions, am I an alcoholic? And be honest, okay? Or do that. And then if you answer a lot of yeses, okay, that's a first start. And then be brave enough to go online and try to find a 12-step meeting that fits your particular affliction, okay? And just be brave enough to walk in there and just listen. You don't have to share. Just walk in and listen. That's the first thing, and see if you relate. Or get a book or do something like that and just start investigating. But the most important thing is you got to try to be honest with yourself. Also, I encourage people not to do it alone. Live in consultation. Okay, I always think the program, because it's inexpensive. If you can afford a therapist, do that. This is another reason why I'm doing this, okay, is I want to present things for people who can't afford these kinds of methods. I want to help people. You open with, why do I want to do this? I want people to have techniques for them not to feel so alone.
I imagine the same, route applies to SLAW, but I think with AA and alcoholism, it's a much easier thing to identify. How does one identify if SLAW is their jam?
Well, SLAW has the questions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're very specific. There's no wiggle room on them.
Yeah.
A great thing for people to look up, to learn about SLAW, and it's really brilliant. It's called the 12 Characteristics of SLAW. And in it breaks down 12 things what love addiction is. Magical thinking, giving power to our partners, sexualizing our feelings. Just look at that, and once again, try to be honest with yourself. Because I've had people read that for the first time and they break down because it's so powerful. It has such an impact.
Where can people find that if they want to?
Google, I guess we'll have it maybe at the end of the show where people can find these kinds of things. Google SLAA 12 characteristics.
Amazing. I think that's going to definitely open up a lot of eyes for people listening. And minds. It's amazing stuff, Seano. So, what's a normal day look like for you? What's a normal week look like? What's the life of Seano consist of?
The life of Seano.
Yeah.
What's a normal day? The life of Seano. I'm up at 4:35 pretty much every day. I never lay in bed and try to figure my life out. Okay. That's a technique I've learned. I get right out of bed. I know that my feet, and I clap. All right. And I do crazy little things that work for me, and I say, today's going to be the greatest day. And then I do a karate chop like Elvis. I say, yeah, baby. Okay. And I throw, it gets me going.
love
Right.
it.
And I laugh at myself.
Yeah.
And then, I throw some water on my face and go to the bathroom, put my coffee on. And this is something that I really want to pass on to people. And once again, working with great athletes, working with some of the biggest change agents in the world, you look for common patterns. One of the things is they have a morning routine that they do not move off, no matter where they're at in the world. Okay. And I will generally spend an hour to 90 minutes, okay, in prayer, meditation, visualization, sending texts out to all my people around the world, okay, getting right with myself, thinking about my day. And then I either go jump in the ocean or I go to Gold's Gym. And then I come in here and do my magic.
I want you to expand on a little bit what's coming in here and doing your magic look like typically, and that importance of that routine for you, which I know you touched on before, but just, a little.
Well, okay, so first part, the second, let me ask, so the reason why I do that morning routine is I know that I'm crazier than most. I have to work a little bit harder. Okay. I also know this. I'm going to be 60 years old in September. I've been around a long time. I've not met one other therapist or coach who's showing up working as much as I am and doesn't blow their head off or loaded. Okay. So people pay me. I got to fucking bring it. And so that requires me to be on a certain frequency. And I'm dealing with tricky things. I'm dealing with people that have to tell their partner they just got HIV. I'm dealing with people, divorce, all these things that come with addiction. Everybody knows all that stuff. And I got to be on point because here's the thing. This is super duper important. Recovery. Seano, what's a spiritual awakening in recovery? People always ask me. It's the ability to pause. I say, God always gives you 30 seconds. So that morning routine allows me to step back. I'm not ready to call this person back. Step back, not respond. Step back, and it helps me find balance. Makes sense?
Totally. 37 years of sobriety, correct?
That is correct.
That's very impressive.
It's a good number.
That's a great number.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
Does it get easier, harder? What's that like? Is it just you don't think about it now, or do you have to think about it a lot?
So, for whatever reason, God took the compulsion to drink away from me. Every once in a while, I'm on first class, there's something, and they bring, I was like, oh shit, man, I've never tried, there's new drinks out, I haven't tried them yet. Rarely though. But that part was easy. The physical sobriety, emotional sobriety took a long time. I just didn't, I came in at 22. I was getting ready to go back to prison. At 6 months, some guys tried to kill me. There was a contract on my life. 3 to 5 was learning how not to kill myself one day at a time because I was dealing with the kidnapping. What I will tell you is this. Recovery, doing this inner life work, is things aren't 11 anymore. They hover around a 4. I'm okay with 4s. But I don't want to drink and I don't want to run away and I certainly don't want to self-harm myself anymore. But it's a daily, I have extraordinary respect because I know this thing, I'm not out of the woods. And I'm terrified to drink again. And I hope that never changes.
That's amazing. I think a lot of people that think about a change of lifestyle think it just sounds boring and not fun, which you mentioned staying at a 4 and you're okay with that. What would you say to some individuals that are thinking about going down this road and not, liking the idea of what a different life looks like?
Oh, you get in recovery and it's boring? Well, you're in the wrong recovery then. Because we live out loud here.
Yeah.
Okay, we do things we thought we could. I'm doing things I never thought possible. We don't just get sober just to be sober. We're here to dream and visualize and we have a fucking blast. So much fucking fun. And by the way, if you're sober a while and you're not having fun, shame on you. Because something's off. Okay, like why get sober if you're not gonna live out loud?
Yeah.
I
think that's a good point because there are people who are sober that aren't living out loud, having fun. How do you get to that next point where you're not stuck, getting unstuck? Because it's one thing to break free from the substances, but if you're still in that place mentally, how do you help people?
So let's say somebody comes in that's been sober a while, but they're a Debbie Downer. Or they're not having fun, or they're complaining. There's something wrong in their belief system. And so at that point, if I see they're on that loop, I have to time out. Do you want to change the loop? Do you want to change the tape? Do you want to try something different? And then what I believe, and this is something that's changed my life and I really practice is, some of my techniques. Let's just say like they want to see art or something, or they haven't been out or done anything. Just go for a half an hour. Just go to LACMA for half an hour, or just work out for 10 minutes. Okay. Or just do something for 10, master the art of 10 minutes, small accomplishable goals, and what happened is they start doing that. And then maybe some light comes in. They go, oh my God, that was so much fun. I forgot how to do that. And you keep pushing them. Okay. Or what else I do is I'll find somebody that needs to help somebody here at Shell. Hey, Linda, I need you to go take her to the Peterson Museum for me. Would you take blah, blah, blah? And we're a community. We help each other out until it clicks. And then after a while, if they don't want to work on that, I just kind of move on. Because if you want to be committed to your sad fucking story, have it. It's all yours. What
is something that, whether people identify with SLAW or AA or any, group for that matter, or even a problem, what's one thing, if nothing else, that everybody can take away from today's podcast?
What's the one thing everybody can take away?
One thing, whether
you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. There's hope. I promise you, no matter how far down the path you've gone, there's a way to wake up. You don't have to be scared. There's resources for you. Take advantage of them. It's your responsibility to get help, nobody else's.
One other thing, I think it's really important. That's for you. And the next question I have is for the next generation. And that is, what's something all parents can do, whether they're together or not, for their children?
Great question. What can parents do? One of the things parents can do is say no. Just say no. I don't believe in this theory. You're there to be their best friend. You're there to be their best advocate. You should have best friends as a parent, as an adult. I love my son. Okay, but the ability to say no is really powerful, because otherwise the kids are going to walk over you, and it's hard to reel that back sometimes.
What was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom was, I'm not a big guy. I'm like 190 now. I was down about maybe 140. I was bleeding from my rectum. The drugs weren't working. I was getting ready to go back to prison again. I had the shakes in the morning, real DTs. Fucking 21 years old, the shakes. And I kept drinking and throw up. And the world was just really scary and lonely. And I had a level of desperation that I never knew before. And there was no way out.
Definitely a rock bottom. I'm glad you were able to crawl out of it. And
fuck, me too, man.
Today.
Yeah, fuck.
What is intergenerational trauma?
Intergenerational trauma is, let's just say you come from a family of alcoholism or violence, or where it's okay to hit the mom, talk bad to the mom. That's what you're modeling to your children. You're modeling hate. You're modeling, fuck, the rules don't apply to us. You're modeling the world. We're getting hustled by the world. And you just pass that down to your children because that's all they know. And so when they get in a fight in school, most parents would be like, hey, Johnny, what the hell happened here? I want to know what's going on. Did something? I'm fucking glad you kicked that kid's ass. That's what we fucking do in the McGillicuddy's family. And it's You know,
Fighting
that's what
Irish.
it is. Yeah, you just got to keep passing it down. Just keep passing it down till somebody is brave. You know, they say, you know, is brave enough to say, I know this is what we do in our family, but not anymore. It stops here. That's how you end it. It stops here right now. We're not going to do that. It's not okay to talk to mom that way. It's not okay to do that.
What's your relationship with your dad now like?
You know, my father, you know, God bless him. Like I said, he did a lot of things right. But it took me a long time to unpeel that generational trauma. Long time to really kind of understand right and wrong. We've butted heads over the years on different things. You know, when I did that podcast, he listened to it and he goes, I don't remember it that way. And that broke my heart. And I said, Dad, I don't want to dispute the things. This is a very sensitive subject for me. So can we please? And he kept going on. And at that point, I took a break from the relationship. For a long time, we didn't talk to each other. And then there was an opening, and he had a transformation, I think. And in the last couple of years, he's really kind of realized who I am and what I do and why it's so important. And my son has healed him, watching my son who he is. And I love him dearly now, and we love each other. I don't believe in hanging on to resentments. I don't believe in that, because if I'm hanging on to that, the light can't reach me. Because the light can't reach, because I don't want the help. So it's my responsibility, no matter how people are wrong. We like the kidnappers. The kidnappers gave me my superpowers. They made me who I am. I'm not a fucking victim to anybody.
I love that. And I think what you just said, so much to take away from that. But one thing that just jumped out to me is, you know, holding on to that resentment, because I think it's something that's so applicable to anybody, whether it's, you know, the worst thing or something small. It's that resentment that takes up space, and not letting the light in. What's it like to let the light in and let that go? What do you mean by letting the light in?
What I mean by that is this.
That.
There's the great saying, you know, resentment's like drinking the poison, expecting the other person to die. If I'm like, you fucked me, man, I can't believe you did that. I'm fierce, and I'm not surrendered. Okay. And one of the things I've had to do, and it's a great, I think it's one of the best things 12 Steps teach. And once again, this is for free. It's an inventory. And in that inventory, you write who you're resentful at. Okay. That's column 1. Column 2, what's the cause? Okay. Right? I'm resentful at my girlfriend. Okay. Right? Why? Because she doesn't pay attention to me anymore, and she's always pissed off at me. Okay. What does it affect? My recovery. Okay. My pocketbook, my serenity. Column 4, the most important column. Where was I selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? How did I hurt others? What's my part? I cheated on my wife. She doesn't feel safe anymore. That's my part. So you got to look deep down at what your part is on the resentment. Now, maybe this is really important, man. Okay. Maybe like the people like, well, what about the people that kidnapped you? Can't you be mad at them forever? No. But the thing is, I had no wrongdoing in that. But my part would be is, why am I still hanging on to it? That's what people have to let go. Why are you still hanging on to something that happened so long ago? Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it's the hard part is that letting go of those things, you know, for people, but it's powerful. Yeah.
It is. And by the way, this is very important. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. I forgive people, but we're not going to go hang out and have dinner together.
Yeah.
We're cool.
It's a difference.
Move on.
Mm-hmm. You know, I know we kind of talked about the what you're doing here, but at Shell. But why did you start Shell?
So I started Shell. I was very blessed. I believed in myself, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do in the type of therapy and coaching. It's interesting. When I started, you know, I was the different psychiatrists and therapists that I studied with and did, when I told them my treatment modality, they said, I don't think it's going to work. Ironically, a lot of those people are calling me for references right now. So I knew kind of what I wanted to do. So I just started out on my own, doing my own thing in private practice in a little studio apartment down in Santa Monica. I had pretty quick success. I got to work with a couple people pretty quickly, and that kind of put me on the map. I also made the first documentary on sex addiction. And one day I got a call from Oprah Winfrey, and she had me on the show. I think it was the third highest rated show that year.
Wow.
That kind of put me on the map. And then one day I was driving by here and I saw a sign for sale. I thought, oh, this could be interesting. And this is when Venice started really getting, costs were going up. And I made an offer. There were a bunch of other offers. The guy was kooky that owned it. What happened was he had a drug problem, and his son did. He said, could I see his kid to help him? And he was so honest. He goes, I don't have the money to pay you. And I said, take it out of the closing costs. That's how I got Shell, actually.
That's amazing.
And my vision for Shell, I wanted a cross between Motown, back when Barry was running it, where Marvin would come sing background for Diana, and there was such flow, and Smokey, it was such love, and they were making great music, and the Haight-Ashbury Free Drug Clinic, which was the first drug clinic in the world that gave out free needles. It's okay, you're gonna get high. We just don't want you to die. No shame. And I wanted to bring those elements together, and I think we've accomplished that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because it's not just, it's an experience. It's not your hit the button, your therapy. You walk in here, what is this, an art gallery? You got a poster of Ferris, all these things up here. What's going on here? You got to pick, and you have to come into this environment and be a part of it.
It's truly special. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
What do you consider yourself? Therapist, coach?
Therapist, coach, big brother,
Yeah.
crazy uncle, neighborhood priest,
Love it. If you had to pick one, what would you say?
trusted advisor.
Love that. Who are your mentors?
Bill Wilson, who created Alcoholics Anonymous. Tony Robbins, who I'm blessed to work with and be in partnership. Rilke, the writer Rilke. A guest that we're going to have on here, Father Boyle, who runs Homeboy Industries. Yeah, I mean, yeah. People that have overcome great obstacles are my heroes.
Tell me about somebody who you really wanted to get sober but couldn't. Because I imagine in the years of doing this, that's not all success stories. What's some of those, harder to reach cases look like?
Michael Jackson.
Is it something you feel comfortable opening up a little bit more about?
I just want to say darkness got to him before I could. A beautiful guy. He really is a beautiful guy. Just sometimes darkness gets there before I do.
Sorry, Seano.
You lose people, man.
Yeah.
People die. It's the real deal.
For all those that are alive and struggling with people in their life that this might not resonate with them and them having a problem, but they can visualize it applying to one of their loved ones or friends or family, what can they do?
What can they do to help somebody that's struggling?
Correct.
Great question. How do because there's so much emphasis on the addict. What about the partner of the addict?
The loved ones that it affects.
It's a very, very, and I'm actually a member of it, a very, very great program called Al-Anon. And that's to help the partners of, okay? And Al-Anon, so you don't feel so alone. So you hear other people that are struggling with, their partners doing that. And Al-Anon is about compassionate detachment. Okay? I worked with a woman, her husband was a fall down drunk. She used to lay down next to him when he would stumble home. Now she walks over him.
Yeah. Takes change and it's tough, but I think with all the through lines, I notice groups are such an important one.
Very powerful.
Whether it's you're the addict or on the other side of it. What can you say about that?
Well, here's the thing. The reason why 12 steps were so impactful for me, number one, I didn't feel alone anymore. Someone tells your story. You hear something there and you hear hope, but you also get a reminder of how you don't want to live your life sometimes. And there's just something, tribe. I always tell this. I'm so glad you touched on this. Shell is a tribe. Everybody needs to find a tribe. There's one thing, you cannot do this thing alone. This disease will have you in its sights and it will nail you if you're by yourself. You will get picked out. In the group, in the tribe, harder to get you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Seano, big thank you for having me. Today was absolutely enlightening. Just to kind of end, what's the one end note you would give to all your listeners today as your final sign off of today's episode?
Whatever your higher power is, if you're struggling, if you're just really struggling with whatever it is, I would encourage you to get on your knees and just pray for the willingness to be willing to let go and try something different. But you got to be very sincere and earnest and really mean it and see what happens.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Seano.
Thank you, brother.
I can't thank you enough for allowing me to sit in this, in your chair, and for you to open up and share with us as much as you did today. I know it's usually you guiding others through this process. So it's an honor, and it was amazing. And I learned a lot today, frankly. And I think
you, brother.
A lot of other people will as well. And if people want to reach out to you and contact you, what's the best way to do so?
I don't know. You're my manager. What's the best way for them to do that? I listen, last time on the podcast in my naivety, I told anybody needs help, call me. Whether you're a billionaire or you have a nickel. Well, guess what? Everybody fucking called me. Okay. I didn't know, but I honored my commitment, and we had so many calls that I had to actually do a call center. But I'm proud to say that everybody got resources and we fulfilled all that. So I don't know the best way for people. I guess you'll figure it out.
Shell.com is probably a good start.
Yeah. Shell, and hopefully we're gonna have a bunch of resources for people. But whatever I can do to help people out, that I will do, guaranteed.
Amazing. Thank you, Seano, for allowing me to sit in your chair for the day and interview you. It's been an absolute honor.
You did it well, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Seano Show is a production of iHeart Podcasts, hosted by me, Seano McFarland. Produced by Pod People and 28th Ave. Our lead producer is Keith Kornelek. Our executive producer is Lindsay Hoffman. Marketing lead is Ashley Weaver. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.